Okay, so we have Chapter 3, Section 2, Extension. We are factoring expressions. So our main question is, how can we factor an algebraic expression? So when factoring an expression, we write the expression as a product of factors. You can use distributive property to factor expressions. So if you notice these first two problems, they have the same numbers. I'm going to kind of show you two separate ways of doing it just because some of us like different options, so I want to give that to you. So first it says factor 24x minus 18 using the GCF. Remember, GCF is greatest common factor. Using the GCF is the fastest way to do it, but if we don't remember how to do it, I want to make sure you have options. So first, if I'm looking at the GCF of 24x and 18, this one doesn't have an x, so I'm just looking at 24 and 18. I need to find the greatest common factor. Remember, the greatest common factor is the biggest number that goes into both. So there's a couple methods you can list. I think the best way is to use the cake method. Okay, so we're going to go like that. What number goes into both 24 and 18? All right, let's say we can't see anything, but we think of a 2. All right, so 24 divided by 2 is 12. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Is there a number that goes in both 12 and 9? Yes, it's 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay, what number goes into both 4 and 3? Well, the only number that does that is a 1, so you know you're done. You're going to multiply the outside numbers. So 2 times 3 times 1 is 6. So my GCF is 6. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to use distributive property, okay, to factor this. Because 6 is my greatest common factor, I'm going to put 6 on the outside of my parentheses. So now my goal is, what can I put in the inside? So when I distribute it, it's going to equal 24x minus 18. So what times 6 equals 24x? Well, let's think backwards. What times 6 is 24? 4. How do I get 24x? 4x. 6 times what is negative 18? Negative 3. Okay, this is my answer. So when I'm looking at it, if I were to check it, if I were to distribute that, that would give me 24x minus 18. Okay, that's always a way of checking it. Now on the right, let's say we don't remember how to do GCF and I just see that they are both, the 3 can go into both. So I just do 3 on the outside and I do 3 times what is 24x? 8x minus 3 goes into 18 6 times. Okay, if you do it like this, you still have to look at your two numbers and say what number goes into both 8 and 6. Well, that's a 2. And I already have a 3 on the outside, so I would have to do 3 times 2, which gets me to 6 again. Okay, so you're still going to end up in that same spot, but if you don't remember that, you can always pull out another 2, and that gets you to your 6. So end up same answer, but just two different options. Like I said, I want you to get to this part just because it's a little bit quicker. This is more if we can't think of the GCF at all, can't figure out a strategy, this is a way we can kind of work through it. Okay, so look down below. 6x minus 27. So once again, let's find that GCF of 6 and 27. So what number goes into both? A 3. The bigger number you choose on your first level, the easier it's going to be, or the shorter it's going to be. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 27 divided by 3 is 9. Draw another layer. The only number that 2 and 9 share is a 1. So I multiply that together. My GCF is 3. Okay, so 3 is going to go on the outside of my parentheses. So 3 times what gets you to 6x? Well, 3 times 2 gets me to 6. So 3 times 2x gets me to 6x. 3 times what gets me to negative 27? That'd be negative 9. Remember, though, we can always check it if I were to distribute 3 times 2x is 6x, 3 times negative 9 is negative 27. Okay, this should be the same as that. All right, if you do that correctly, you will be able to check it every time. On the right, once again, 21w plus 28. Let's find our GCF. What number goes in both? 7. 21 divided by 7 is 3. 28 divided by 7 is 4. The only number that goes into 3 and 4 is 1. So I'm going to use 7 on the outside. So 7 times 3w gets me to 21w. 7 times 4 gets me to 28. So we are done. Let's flip to the back. Now the back's going to be a little bit different. I am now telling you what number I want on the outside of your parentheses. So notice it says factor 2 out of negative 4p plus 10. So I want to end up back here. So I'm going to put negative 2 on the outside. And I need to think, negative 2 times what gets me negative 4? Okay. Well, I can't put a negative in here because 2 negatives would equal a positive. So I need this number to be a positive. So negative 2 times what gets you negative 4? That'd be a positive 2. I also need to add the variable. Now, negative 2 times what gets me a positive 10? Well, I know I need to get a positive. This is a negative, so a negative times a negative gives us a positive. And 2 times 5 gets me to 10. So this is my answer. Once again, if I wanted to check it, I can distribute it. Negative 2 times 2p gets you negative 4p. Negative 2 times negative 5 gets you positive 10. Same thing as before, I want to end up in the same spot as where I started. Let's go on the right. I'm going to factor out a negative 6 out of this, negative 12y minus 42. Alright, so a negative's here. So I know this needs to be a positive because a negative times a positive is a negative. 6 times 2y will get me to negative 12y. Now, once again, I need this one to be positive because a negative times a positive gets me a negative. So positive, and 6 times what is 42? 6 times 7. Alright, so that is my answer. Once again, if we want to check it, negative 12y minus 42, it looks the same. Alright, so on the bottom here, you have 5 practice problems. You must show all your work and try every problem. Do not say you don't know how to do it. You must try it, and we will talk about it tomorrow. If you get it wrong, it is not a big deal, but try every problem. You will be surprised of how many you get right. If you still have questions, make sure you write them down, but try your practice problems.